Today we have David Homan lead at WECAN. David, thank you for being here. You are the founder of Orchestrated Connections and also the best-selling author of Orchestrating Connections, How to Build Purposeful Community in a Tribal World. David, talk to us about your life and your purpose with Orchestrated Connections.
Well, I'm so pleased to be here, first of all, and I want to thank everyone for listening in. I can't say I'm promise I'm going to be brilliant, but I can promise that I'm going to hopefully shed light on the one thing that I know well, which is how to build trust and build very intentional community around me. That is what I now do as a profession. I run a global community. I'm a keynote speaker, best-selling author, a tech founder, but I do one thing profoundly every day. I get out of the way of people who should meet each other that both trust me, and I help them build trust with each other.
David, I'm excited to talk to you about trust and connection and community because they're real antidotes to the times that we're living in, where it seems that the loneliness epidemic and a disconnected world has taken over, and we're not able to sort of find the connections to ourselves and to others easily. So, talk to us about your community with orchestrating connections.
Absolutely. And I will say the mouthful of that word of orchestrated connecting or the book all comes from the fact I'm a classical composer in my other life.
Yeah.
And years ago, I sought to find what was the resonance in my music, also with the resonance in people.
Mm.
So quick version of my community, 11 years ago, I came to realize that what I built for about 5 years prior was this private, amazing network of connectors.
Mhm.
People who had trust, knew tons of people, influential people, investors, nonprofit leaders, politicians, and all of them loved and trusted me, and none of them knew each other or knew each other to the extent that they knew me.
Mm.
And I started to bridge that gap not by individual intros, but by doing an event, which became a series of events, which became during COVID a global phenomenon of virtual events where the slogan was finally a Zoom event that doesn't suck. And then the network was nearly 1,000 at that point. Now it operates in 11 different cities, plus
Wow.
virtually over 35 countries. Every
Mm.
person in it fits the psychology of being an action-oriented, natural giver that I
Mm.
would leave my children with. And that's been the code since day one.
I love that, David. How inspiring is that? So, talk to us how you curate this community. What is the purpose of it? What do you do together?
Sure. So the purpose is one thing, to make relationship value valued.
Mm.
The reason behind that, so this doesn't sound just esoteric, is I had problems meeting philanthropists to support the charity I was leading. Friends of mine had problems as incredible founders getting the next round of their capital. Women I know starting businesses had a problem getting any loan from a bank. In every situation, that was solved through the power of an introduction and
Mm.
trusted access.
Mm.
And then I realized all the people doing that, giving that out every single day, were not being given back to. And we held the soft power that does make the world work,
Yeah.
because no business deal, no politician chosen, no major philanthropic gift, they've all come from an introduction, an insight,
Mm.
an opportunity. They don't just happen randomly. Connectors make it happen. So I built a group that I wanted to be different than other groups. I set up very strict rules, both for who could nominate people in and that code of being an ethical, action-oriented giver. And then I enforce those rules, for which the primary one to keep my community running, which also gives me the data set, Stephanie, is if something substantial happens for you in my network, you have to honor the chain of connections, not just to the person who helped you, but the person who introduced you to that person and on down the chain until most people see themselves as that catalyst, but never the recognition for being so.
Beautiful. David, so what are those codes that you were just talking about?
I call it my mantra. Every
Mm.
connector I talk to, I send it to. When people read it, I tell them it's going to seem commonplace, but look at how few people do it. If somebody makes an introduction for you you've asked for, respond within 2 days. If you're busy, tell the people why you're busy. Don't just ghost them. If you meet somebody and want to work through them to something you need and have no curiosity about them, then you're not going to get another introduction. But most importantly, if you want an introduction for one reason, and really you then use that masked as a reason for something else, especially around the wealth and power in my network, then you're out and you can't get back in because you prove that you were a taker, which is really what my community is designed to do, is to bring in all the connectors and the givers and to ferret out collectively those people who would rather help themselves than help somebody else.
David, what an absolutely unique thing you've built. It feels harmonious and beautiful. And so how many people are in this community now? And what are the things you've achieved together? And what is the big vision for you as a community going forward?
So, one thing to understand, my network is a network of networks. The people within my community run other communities. They run major conferences. They run family offices. They run film production studios. They work with philanthropists and nonprofits all throughout the globe. So my network is a super nodal network. Everyone in it, on average, makes dozens to hundreds to thousands of intros a year. I walk into any event anywhere and I see one of the connectors in our group, which is currently about 2,600 strong, with a really high active rate. We measure it every year. Do you show up for an event? Do you answer emails? Do you make introductions? And that tops over 90% every single year, which I've learned is pretty unparalleled. I go, well, where's the other 10%? What's happening with them? But it's a network where you can ask for what you need. And if somebody in the network has it, then you will get it. So that includes getting films funded, focused on mental health and climate change, getting investors to double down into a fund focused on regenerative agriculture, supporting A-list celebrities with a cause to advance human rights, helping during COVID, a group of people focused on getting vaccines and masks and supplies in rural parts of the United States, the supplies they needed, they could not get otherwise. I won't talk about the glitter of the network, but in many cases, the network is connecting a billionaire to another billionaire, a politician to somebody that they couldn't get access to. But it's all with opt-in and all with trust, because I don't think you use an opportunity as access for somebody, because then it is no longer an opportunity you can then work or act upon. We take every opportunity put in front of us, an event, a conference, an introduction, as something sacred, to bridge that gap with a direct targeted introduction. I do this well, but the people in my network do it better. I've just built the system by which we can all flourish and be supported while we are supporting others.
Yeah. David, and you talked about it right at the beginning. You're also a tech founder. Talk to us about your techie platform and what that does.
So I'll give the analogy from reason I hate events first. Most events I walk into, I feel like I'm in middle school again. There's a group of people, they don't look at me, I feel awkward. There's somebody showboating at the bar, not in middle school, obviously, but that same feeling. And I don't feel like I belong, when in other places I walk into a room and the entire room was there because of me. Yeah. So I've never found events to work. I've re-engineered them to support introverts and people who are having a bad day, as opposed to those that want to maximize it. And in the tech world, what I've found over a decade of trying to find something is nothing actually works to give me the toolkit I need to measure the trust in my network, to understand without my deep and trained memory, the patterns or the things that might necessitate me connecting those people. Nothing helps honor that chain or track it. Because if you and I were going to walk into an event together, I would never introduce you as my Instagram follower or my Facebook friend. And yet that is what, along with a LinkedIn first degree, that is our current measurement of social trust. What I believe is the true measurement is what we capture in my company, which is called SOAR Connect. Yeah. SOAR standing for Strength of Authentic Relationships. We built something the opposite of big tech. We utilize all these incredible companies, but your data is just yours. And what you get from that is a a complete Rolodex of everyone you've ever met, a trust score comparing everyone that you've met compared to everyone else and looking at the patterns and the data to prove what is your either Dunbar number of 150 or what we think now might go up to 250. And the whole point is, if you could ask your own network for something, that's an amplifier effect. But if you can ask your entire community, and then the tech can support them understanding privately in their networks who could help you, everything is built as everything is built with opt-in. It's built with trust, and it keeps the person at the core, the first person in that chain, always connected to the end result, even if that might be years later.
Mm. Wow. So, David, how how do you combine it all? I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about the main messages of your book, and then I want to circle back to all these different pieces that make up your life that are all around connection and community and those connective and immersive experiences that you curate for people to find the next step or, a person, an investment, or whatever it might be that they're looking for. So let's talk about your book, How to Build
Absolutely.
Purposeful Community in a Tribal World. Talk to us about the main messages.
So my co-author Noah Askin and I dug in after I introduced him to 50 people in my network.
Mm,
All 50 took the call during COVID with him just to learn about networking and community. He is a professor, Harvard trained, INSEAD Paris, now UC Irvine. And he came back to me and he said, 49 of the 50 people unsolicited, when I asked why they were a natural giver, told me they had experienced trauma in their past. And by
mm,
overcoming that and not being a victim or a martyr, it made them very adept, really skilled at connecting people, giving to others. And he said, if that's 49 out of 50, let's ask the 50th. We did. Her response was, I just didn't bring up the trauma. We didn't have time. So I've curated a special type of person, and I've studied what makes those that are the best at this, the best at it. And nothing I can say now is in any way groundbreaking. You just have to understand there's a system, the method to the madness.
mm,
So most people are not curious to others. Obviously, you are, Stephanie, but most people are not. And with that, if you're curious to others, that often gives them a window to just tell you everything about their lives and not be curious back. So when you then take that step of going from curiosity to somebody, whether they are biting and hooking back to you or not, if you're vulnerable in any way that is palatable or appeasing for you, that invites somebody to let their guard down and to start to build trust. So the two founding principles are to be curious and to be vulnerable. These are the two core strengths I think every human needs to work on and work from. The third is practical, which is the more your network looks like you, sounds like you, talks like you, the more stale your network is. You need diversity in network of all ages, races, religions, socioeconomic geographies. The more varied, the more exponential your network can grow. And then there's two steps of action. The fifth one I mentioned, honoring the chain, that's to express gratitude for anything done onto you. But to get somebody to help you, the first thing you have to do is be generous and use that curiosity and their vulnerability to offer to help them. Very few people are ever offered help. I walk into rooms and I ask how I can help somebody, and then I ask them if they've heard that question this year. And the answer 100% of the time is no.
never, yeah.
I walk into a room and I tell people how this last fall, everything in my life shifted and changed because my dad went into hospice and then passed. And I'm commended for being courageous when everyone I know who hears that responds back and talks about losing their parents, losing their sister, losing their grandparents. If we've all experienced something and I'm a maverick for sharing it, what is the solution for that? It's this idea that the more you can be truly human and connect with the purpose of being vulnerable and curious to people who aren't like you, offering them service and then delivering on that, the minute they are honorable back to you, your community gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
Mm,
This is what my network is. It is how it works. This is my way of life now. And if people don't want to understand the effect of it, I could name drop over 1,000 people on this planet people would want to meet, but I can tell you those people trust me, that I've taken actions to help them because I went to them and I asked what I could do and then I did it. And that, unfortunately, is still too rare in our society.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And generosity is my driver in everything I do. And it's your driver, David. How did you get to being driven by this giving and this generosity?
I thought I had an ideal childhood. I loved playing soccer and baseball. I acted. My parents were just incredible parents. Everyone wanted to have them as like second parents. And then I got super sick when I was 12 and I was bedridden for months. I gained a lot of weight. My baseball career, whatever it might have been, was over in a heartbeat. And I spent years getting back in shape, figuring out my place, and feeling awkward everywhere I went.
Mm,
And I didn't fit into the sports crowd, the theater crowd, the D&D crowd, the music crowd. I fit in nowhere. I had friends in each, but I never belonged. I started in the world of philanthropy and charity and nonprofits because that's what my mother did. And I got to New York after college and started to just love this amazing, beautiful, cutthroat city. And no one wanted to help me. No one wanted to give me opportunity. So I finally just put myself out there more and more. And I was not the temperament to do that to start. But something in me drove me to talk to people, to help them. I went from that to running a global charity, to helping it survive the ashes of Bernie Madoff. And eventually I got to this world that I am in now, where I offered to enough people that I could help them. And I built up enough of a network that every day I feel satisfied just doing that.
mm,
But I've now seen the strategy where you can be selfless and selfish at the same time,
mm,
because everybody I help wants to help me. And when they can't help me, but they can help somebody else I cannot help, eventually what comes around when you do this intentionally is that all of the people that I would want to help me, I've met through that ring of generosity. I closed the first round of my startup in 9 weeks.
mm.
I wrote a book and it became a USA Today bestseller from my own network without great publicity at the time. So I have taken things that people want and I have matched them with generosity to start.
Yeah, what a beautiful picture you're painting, David. I'm just so excited to have you on We Can. Talk to us a little bit about that, how we can all connect deeper. First you had to find that connection to yourself, and then you could connect uh, with other people in those really intentional and meaningful ways, which is really an antidote to what is being mirrored to us in the world right now. We have a big loneliness epidemic. We are very disconnected. The tech revolution is only driving us more into a more disconnected future. So, what advice can we share or can you share now to people who look at you and think, yes, but this is sort of unique and it's a one-off and it can't be, right? So talk to us
Yeah.
about that, those steps that every one of us can take to connect deeper.
So it's unfortunate that that's completely accurate. Your view of the world, I share it. I wish I didn't, but we've lost the sense of community. We've
Yeah.
lost a lot of our purpose.
Mm,
And when we experience apathy, either our own or that done onto us, we feel like we felt when we went to that middle school mixer and the boys stood on one side and the girls stood on the other. And like one person, self assured, just danced and didn't care. To be clear, that was never me, but that was somebody that I would now wish I had known. Um, all this is self inflicted because if everyone thinks that what I've done is so amazing, and then they think, therefore, they can't, when they meet somebody, be more curious to them, then shame on them. It does not take much to ask a few more questions. And it really doesn't take much to just bear a little bit of your soul to another human, regardless of whether they're the bus driver or the keynote speaker at a conference you went to. Our humanity is strengthened by feeling seen and heard. And the only way you can do that is to help other people feel seen and heard first. And it's extraordinarily gratifying. So what I tell everyone
Mm.
is, for wherever you are in your life, even if you're just heading out on your own, there's going to be someone in your life who stood up for you, who taught you something, who made an introduction, who brought you somewhere. And part of that became a catalyst that changed your life. How often, Stephanie, do people come back to you and say thank you?
Yeah, actually, I've interviewed over 650 people now, and it's really still rare. I mean, I'm not saying it never happens, it does happen, but it's quite rare. And the other thing that's very rare is to get a question back. So what you just did is extremely rare. And I'm not upset about that. It's just a reflection of our, yeah, our systems.
It's well, so here's the apathy, and here's the challenge to everyone, right? The 650 people who you interviewed and the handful that thanked you, I'm pretty sure you can remember those who thanked you,
Definitely.
which means in the relationships you've built, the hundreds and hundreds of powerful and influential and incredible people that you've brought into your world and your business in this podcast, you can remember the handful who took a minute to WhatsApp you or email you and say, thank you so much. After this interview, somebody approached me and they hired me to be a speaker. I'm so grateful. Like it literally takes that much to shift our mentality for it. And it is more addictive than my biggest vice on this planet, which is chocolate. It just takes leaning in and watching what happens when somebody's eyes lit up and they think, what? Somebody's actually interested in me.
Mm,
Somebody asked me what I needed. I haven't been asked that in a decade. And then the one person, right, who goes from thanking you to then delivering something for you, they become the first person out of your mouth when somebody asks you something when they're not in the room that that person could help with. This is the reason the system works, is that it's just inverting the behaviors that we wish were done onto us, but we don't do to others. And it just says, so what? If I'm vulnerable and I share, for instance, that my father passed, which I've done at many conferences now, I was at one recently, and everyone but one person expressed sympathy and told me a story.
mm,
And the person who just glossed over the fact that I lost my father last year, I immediately judged them. I immediately relegated them to another part of my life. And when they came back as a follow up wanting me to help them, of course I didn't answer, because my vulnerability became a shield to prevent me from being taken advantage of by somebody. Right? Like, what would happen, Stephanie, if I went to you and I said, hey, there's this really influential person I met at this conference. I told them that my dad died and they didn't express any sympathy or empathy. Would you like to interview them on your podcast?
no.
Of course you won't.
Yeah.
We have the power to change this. This is not a one-off, as you had put it, to push me to give a hopefully eloquent answer as I warm up on this podcast. Um, what it is simply a solution of taking what we wish was done onto us and making it our strength, introvert or extrovert, crappy day or crappier day. Because I am not the only parent whose tween in becoming a teen is experiencing anxiety. There are
Mm,
books about this. I am not the only parent whose younger kid, who's a boy, is having a hard time expressing grief about losing his grandfather and acting out because of it. I am not the only person who wrote a best-selling book and then goes, what do I do after that? Everyone thinks there's a whole magic road, and instead there's nothing but keep telling everyone you have a book and hope you keep your sales up until it becomes boxes in your closet and you have to do book number two. Like the reality of what we perceive things to be can be shattered, and we can get back to human, starting with gratitude, keeping with curiosity, and daring to be vulnerable.
David, I wonder, you lead with such beautiful ideals and so many really important and beautiful values. What does it feel like to you living in this current climate where we are being mirrored the exact opposite all the time from many leaders around the world?
I'm a great student of history. Like I read tons of nonfiction books that are most people would consider very boring. This is just another time like other times. People said it was unprecedented in the 60s. They said it was unprecedented in the 20s. They said the same in every era. The era is cyclical. And yes, we have that embodiment now because of apathy. We have people who are willing to be fed lies and then believe them on every side of the aisle. We have people who are refusing to have civil dialogue and then get on a bus and give up their seat to an elderly person. We have people who say that being all American or all British or all whatever it might be is their identity, and then they all root for AC Milan when they're playing in the finals. We have so many different identities. They are not limited to who we are right now, and all we have to do is look up from our phones to actually engage with somebody else and get that fill to understand it doesn't take much to reconnect, but it's not going to come from our leadership. It's going to come from different parts of our world that we will no longer let take advantage of us the way a lot of power structures still do.
Yeah. Amen to that. So, David, you're creating these intentional communities that have real collective impact. What advice do you have to people listening who think, gosh, this sounds amazing. It sounds almost too good to be true. Talk to us about very simple steps that people can take.
If you do the self work right and you insist on that in a positive way of those around you, it doesn't matter what environment you were in. If you, in a work environment, a philanthropic environment, as a CEO, if you are an accountable human being who's curious and vulnerable, your life will change because of it. And the people who judge you for it, that is the greatest window into who to relegate from your life. And if it happens to be your boss, if it happens to be somebody in your family, then you can work to improve that through these positive steps of being gracious, seeing if they're gracious back. And if they're not, if they're a selfish, we know the rest of that phrase, then try to relegate them from your life. People are either going to evolve or not with you when you take these steps. And when you do it intentionally and you simply just say very simply, this is why I want us to gather here. This is what I, as a CEO, need with other CEOs or my employees or the board that I'm on. This is the new employee in a nonprofit who simply doesn't want to go out and get drinks, but actually wants to get to know the people around them. Eventually, those people rise to the top. Eventually, those people get the most help. The only people who get more than people who actually take action or are generous are people who are super, super hot. And in some cases, they can also be incredibly generous. But in most cases, when it's not, as a friend called this, the greatest UX UI of the planet, are those who look the best because we assume they will be the best. Action changes everyone's perspective of you. If you do something to help somebody, you elevate, your reputation increases. It doesn't go down, it just stays there because we all crave story. And all you have to do to start is figure out the value of the people around you, be curious and ask if they would want to amplify each other, and then convene people in a book club, in a PTA. Your kids all go play soccer, then they go home sweaty. The person who says, let's go out for ice cream, let's go out to the water park and rinse off our kids, whatever it might be. It doesn't take much to offer. Most people want it. They're afraid to ask. And those people who judge that, just look at those people as the window into who to avoid. And the more you filter in the good, the easier this gets.
Yeah. David, you talk about how to create teams that champion us as we champion them, right? You've been talking about this a little bit just now. Give us some more insight into that.
Okay. So the strategy will not seem like a business strategy for team development. But if my mother was talking to your mother about what we both did, have we explained to them well enough that they could explain it to each other? Because when you work on a team and then your team goes out to achieve something, The strength of what you do in any of that is actually having a strong bond with those around you and everyone being clear on what you are excellent at and where you need support. And in my community, which is a massive team, so to speak, opportunities come to me left and right now when I'm not in the room. Not because my mother's talking to their mother. That was when I was in my 20s in New York, and that was a reality. But because when you're not in the room and somebody can advocate or champion for you, you gain much more in your life. And when you build a team that then, when they spread out on this planet, still remains your team, whatever it might be, then you gain something that is deeper and more important than a family. And most people approach the people they work with, the people they volunteer with, whatever it might be, as people of the moment. I don't ever want to feel that way, that this person is placating me for this moment because we're on a board together. I'm going to be closer with the people on the board that I chair that reach out to me and check in. Fortunately, everyone on the board that I chair of the Arthur Miller Foundation is that type of person.
Mm.
But in many cases, it's not. It all goes back to people who choose to have apathy and just know that they will have more come to them in life and judge the people around them. All that needs to happen is you have to set a higher standard for what you expect around you in a way that if somebody were to refute that, they'd prove themselves a schmuck, and therefore they will elevate with you, and therefore you can build a larger and larger team and community.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely. So, David, what does success look like for you now? What does a life lived well mean for you now?
I don't actually know. Um, Everything that I have ever achieved in my life, from musical premieres at the Joyce Theater or Carnegie Hall, to a best-selling book, to running a big film company with a huge family office, all those things were milestones that, when I think about my legacy, probably don't matter. My kids are proud that I'm a connector and that I love my life every day, as challenging as it is. My tech company may become a big phenomenon and filter out all the ales on this planet and bring those who want to be ethical and full of gratitude into a better system to support them, or not. I have been trying for a huge amount of big things my entire life. I've been handed very little. I've worked 1,000 times more to get what other people get handed. And, when my father passed, we thought about the thing. If he had had a tombstone, he did not wish to have one. But the joke always would be that it would say he meant well. And that's what I think about when I think about what success is, what my whole legacy is. I meant well. I tried really hard to do something really hard to help a whole bunch of people. It gets harder and harder every year. At the same time, the stakes are higher, both for the financial losses and the ruining of my business that could occur if I fail or fall doing this.
Mm.
But the success of this is, I can say every single day of my life, especially since I began this 11 years ago, I have helped thousands of people every year advance their dreams to help others. And it just doesn't stop.
So, what is the big vision of your dream, David? What are your plans and goals?
I mean, it'd be really nice if people actually listen to my classical music because I say it all the time, and then my streaming royalties are still like 17 cents every quarter, which is not bad as a classical composer, but it's not good. Um, True success looks like this. Our world re-engineers itself based on principles like I and many other amazing people have been spouting for a long time. We build community more purposely and intentionally, where your reputation's based on your actions. And if you are not giving more than you are taking, then you start to get less and less in life. And that takes those who have built incredible businesses and own a huge amount of the planet, and it puts those who are the best at this in helping people on a pedestal. And it relegates people of any walk of life who diminish other people, who traffic other people, who ruin lives because right now they can. I think that if our society were to shift itself around, and we were to take a collective responsibility, say just for all the children on this planet, and we all felt like they should grow up in a safer, more holistic place, then those who traffic them should be relegated to the tiniest, coldest little island and left there. Those who exploit people for their own gain can no longer get away with it. And all it takes is the one thing that money cannot buy, which is your reputation. Our society is just too fragile right now, and people are too afraid because they're afraid of the consequences to them. And all history has proven is when people take a risk and they stand up for something greater than themselves, then greatness comes by amplifying their vision with others. I don't think it's too hard to return to that if I can be part of that catalyst to take the people who will really lead that charge there, then my role will have been that slightly more appreciated in between, which is what makes a connector a connector.
David, do you remember the moment that you understood you are this? You are a chief connector. This is your Stoll's mission.
Yes. Um, it was a funny moment. I was running an arts philanthropy. I got a call from a friend. He asked for an intro into two fields of investment I'd never touched or seen or dealt with. One was cannabis, one was cryptocurrency. And he asked me if I could make an introduction for somebody who could be an advisor for another friend of his investing in that space. And I said, "Oh, yeah." And I named somebody who I knew through teaching them how to sing at some point earlier in their life. And those two people met and sparks flew, and a lot came out of it for about a decade after. And then I just paused and I asked my friend why he asked me. And he said, "Dude, I didn't just ask you, you're my only call. You are a connector of connectors. You know everyone who knows everyone, and they all trust you." And then he's like, "Actually, I don't even know what you do by day or what the foundation is. I just know you from how you've helped me."
Mm.
And that moment made me realize I had built something different because I saw a system that wasn't, to be clear, my ecosystem was great, it was working well for me. I'm satisfied. I saw that the strength was in connecting the ecosystem builders to each other. And not that I needed to start doing it, but I had already done it.
Mm.
I just need to put a wrapper around it. I held an event, 40 people walked in the room, and those people know every person in every room they walk into, especially in New York, especially in the world of impact. No one knew more than 6 people. And that changed my life that date, which was November 1st, many years ago, because I realized I had done something unbelievable. I had figured out a way to very quickly transfer trust and turn that into action. And every day since, I've stumbled through this. I might be good at it some days better than others, especially when my kids are sleeping better than allergy season in the States. But I've done one thing repeatedly, which is that I had made this community not about me.
Yeah.
I have taken the ego out of it. I have not exploited it. I don't charge membership. I don't take sponsorship. I do events at cost. Everyone in it to be in it has to ask for what they need. And I try my darndest to help every single one of them with every request that they make. And, one of my employees, one of the best ones, whose name is Sarah, left last year to pursue her own business. And she wrote me this note on her last day, which I burst into tears because she said, "I just want you to know that I've seen you. I've seen you answer every single email everyone writes. I've seen you take every task on. I've seen you respond to everyone who with a loss or a challenge with empathy. I've seen you show up in 1,000 ways, and knowing what you've gone through, you've still shown up that way every single day." And that was who I was as that kid that I lost when I got sick.
Mm.
That was who I was as that young adult into maybe more of an adult. I'm not sure I feel like one, but my kids sure think I am. I haven't changed with it. I've just gotten more confident with a kid who always wanted to stand up for injustice and fight hypocrisy and rebalance power to help those that can't help themselves. And everything I do was from that moment of realizing I had one power, which is I build trust and I help people meet each other. Everything that I'm working to do that I still need help on, especially with the startup and scaling it and getting more keynote talks and all that, comes from a belief that this works because I've seen it work from the best in the industry. The best connectors go, "You reframe my way of thinking. This made me think that I could do it differently." If anyone listening here goes, "I'm going to take that guy up on the gratitude prompt and call 3 people who helped me and thank them,"
Mm.
just Just watch what happens. It is really not hard to do any of this. It takes a lot to maintain it, but it's actually not hard to say to people, what are you doing on Saturday? I need to walk more. I feel like it after having children, I'm losing my sense of health. Can we go on a walk and get 6 people? And then it'll be 15, then it'll be 30. To say to somebody who lost a loved one in military service, not how are you feeling 1 month after, but how about every month after for 3 years? It doesn't take that much. To walk up to a parent on a flight whose kid is squirming and ask if they need you to get something for them, like, like none of this is hard and it makes us feel better. And every time I do it, somebody goes, wait, and how did you meet such and such billionaire as a family? How are you friends with this WNBA star? And I go, I was human. They were human back, and we built trust.
Yeah. It can be this easy. It can be this easy. And I resonate with what you said earlier with taking the ego out of the equation. That's exactly what I'm doing with everything I do, because in the end, it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about facilitating and creating this vessel that is there to help others. And so it makes the whole equation much easier, because asking for things all of a sudden is so easy because it's not about me. I wonder if you
But
feel the
but
same.
the I do, but here's the thing that I'd say is the problem, the system's problem, right? When I asked you a question as to whether you'd been thanked, and you said out of 650 people, there were a few, you have
Well,
generously
it's more than
interviewed.
a handful, but yes, it's
No,
not
but
that many, but yeah.
even if it was 50 out of 650, that is still pathetic because you helped all of them. They all should have been great. If not once at the least, maybe twice. But if something happened from what you did with them, how do you know? And how warm and incredible would it make you feel, or how advantageous would it be for more listeners or your own business if somebody knew that by bringing somebody's voice in, you helped change those listeners' views, you helped empower them, that also helped change or affected your life, and we are sitting here in the dark of it because people aren't required to say thank you and to honor what people did to each other.
That's true. But the listeners, that's a much nice that we get a lot of feedback, actually. We get a lot of feedback on who helped who when, and so that is definitely a motor that keeps us going.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I do feel, right, just to finish that your question, I do feel that it is so challenging to keep putting yourself out there in a way that is egoless when you also have needs.
Mm,
And it is really challenging to continue to give. When you're in a place of abundance, it's great. When you're not, it's incredibly hard. But if the top 50 people around me simply turned on a slightly more gracious hat and asked what they could do for each other, my life would be easier. So would yours. If the listeners and the people you've interviewed simply took a few small steps of action, not words, then what would come just out of our interaction of theirs to each other, the people around them, it is a ripple effect that can spread. We just need to
yeah.
stop containing it and judging others for not doing it to us when we are not doing it to them.
Correct. Absolutely. We can only ever look after our own front garden, right? So this is what it is. And you're inspiring other people to do that, David, which is why your story is so magical and beautiful, and showing that this is all possible because you have built a community that is built on those beautiful codes of conduct that we hope to inspire others with. So now, if I listen to you, David, orchestrating connection, I want in. How does it work?
So, one, for this special community, you have to be a connector.
Yeah.
I already know you are, which is why I reached out, how you responded, the way we've had this dialogue. I'm sure of it. And the only way to follow that up to be in my community, because I'll send you what's called my mantra afterwards, is to ask me for help.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean I can actually do it. but I will try and I will know the intention. I will do my best to do so. And anyone who self-identifies that way to get in is my understanding of are you of the integrity, Stephanie, that I would leave my kids with. And then I just watch how you show up for yourself and for others around you. I study everyone at every event. No one at my event is on a phone, but I see which people walk up to the person who's standing alone. I see the person who is sitting there asking for everyone else but themselves, and then the person who goes to them and says, well, what about you? What do you need?
Mm.
Because I get the feedback loop several thousand times a year from the honoring the chain rule.
Yeah.
So to be in my community, which is not a business, it's to be invited in because you've proven you're a giver already, that you're a connector, and that you want to help other people. And the only catch is you also have to be willing to help yourself.
Okay, David. So how can we support you? How can WECAN and the listeners support you?
So the number one always, again, I got to answer in the egoless way. I need as many connectors as I can find on the planet. Right now, I do events in London, Toronto, Boston, New York, DC, Miami, Chicago, Dallas, Austin, LA, and San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
The thing keeping me from expanding more fully into Lisbon and Berlin and Dubai and other places is just I have to get to the capacity of having a large, diverse group so I can do my magic, which is go, Stephanie, I can't believe you don't know this person. They do a podcast. It's called We Could. Yours is called We Can. Why don't you talk to each other? And that's the magic that happens from that diverse network.
Yeah.
That's the thing I need more than anything else. I also believe, because I'm getting the feedback from tons of people, that people can actually take actionable steps from what I speak about, what Noah and I have written about, and it is making changes in their networks, in their communities, in their events, the way it's done in my network for 11 years. So I'm hoping to build more keynote speaking opportunities all around the US, around the UK and the EU, around the world, because something in this works to help other people. And if I can help more people in a larger way, then I want to. And as every tech founder knows, you were constantly building and you were constantly raising. I'm in the finishing the build, next part of the build phase. Then I'm going to go to mass market adoption and another raise. And even with a crazy network like I have, it's still really, really hard to do.
Mm.
So I'm looking for the visionary investors, community leaders who can go, I want to dig into what you've built. I at least heard your philosophy in a little bit on this podcast. Can you show it to me? Can you show me what's working? Can you tell me where your challenges are? And I'd like to help you get this to a phase where technology is no longer taking your data, it's empowering and augmenting you. And all introductions are based on warmth and opt-in and trust instead of opportunity or spam or some paid feature.
Yeah.
I want to rebuild tech in this way. And if I can speak about it more and scale my tech company more, it won't give me more time with my kids, but I carve that out anyway, no matter how stressed or busy I am. But I want to make this system something that flourishes well beyond the fact that I'm currently in the center of it.
Yeah. What takeaways would you like our listeners to have from your story, David, if you had to sum it up?
I mean, I'd love for all those active listeners to take a guess if they've been so active as to which host thanked you and just see for your own curiosity where the most influential person was. Were they also the most graceful and gracious? Because I found that actually to be the same.
Mm.
The people that are the most human, that connect the most, are not going to take this as opportunity, podcast, thank you so much, goodbye. They're actually going to have been gracious back. So that would be a takeaway for your audience, because I am just one blip in the span of what will be hundreds more as you shed your wisdom and your curiosity onto all of us. Other than that, I just want people to believe this is possible.
Mm.
That there is such importance and strategy and benefit in it. Like, I've built this storied life now, storied in quotes to be clear, of just getting access to people that I've helped, that other people go, I can't believe you were in a room with Malala. And I'm thinking, why didn't Mary return her husband's call about the sports thing that they're doing? That's the real world I'm in now, but I built it with intent and purpose to do the one thing I know well. So if anyone's listening, they don't have to be a connector. They don't have to be a convener. They don't have to write a book or in their late 40s launch a tech company. Like what they need is to feel inspired and empowered that if they shift a little bit about what they do and a little bit more, and then the people around them who do the same strengthen with them, then you're doing the one thing we all need, which is to be amplified beyond what we can do on our own. And when your passions are amplified more with other people, that's what community should be.
Yeah, that's the power of it. David, I'm so grateful for you to share your story and insights today on WECAN. Thank you for being a connector in chief that's teaching us the cornerstones of real connection and community, what that can look like, and to model it for us so we can just take the notes and do the same thing. I would love for our listeners to honor the chain. So who do you need to say thank you to? Who do you really need to get back to and say thank you for doing X, Y, and Z for me? And how can you stand up for something that's greater than you?
So I've fortunately been proud to honor the chain for everything that's happened to me in my life. But there's one woman who made me resilient in all of it. My mom met a woman named Doris Barden when I was a kid. Doris was a tough as nails, amazing person who became like my grandmother. And I would go over to her home and I would play piano for her. I would play her my compositions. She'd be extremely critical. She'd ask me about my life, what I was doing. I really felt like I was being raked through the coals. And then she'd feed me borscht, and I hate red beets with a passion. But she fed me borscht, and I had to eat it because when you're 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and you're with this respectful older woman who lives across the street, you eat it. And every time I'd walk home, often in tears. And Doris would call up my mom and say, he's going to be the next Lenny Bernstein. He's going to make something of himself. I'm sure of it. I saw how he crumbled and picked himself back up. And when I got to New York, Doris introduced me to her best friend, Abby. And Abby brought me into her world on the Upper West Side, where I now live again after all these years. Abby introduced me to the late violinist Isaac Stern's widow, Vera. Vera hired me to run a foundation where I met a guy who was like a second father to me, Bill Schwartz, and he and I led an organization through the global recession with the housing bubble and Bernie Madoff. And through that journey, over half of my network has been built from one woman who criticized me and fed me borscht, prepared me for my life in New York, which I didn't know was the life I would lead. And then when I got there, the first call in this crazy, hectic, lonely city was, you need to meet my best friend, Abby. And that was one of two intros that changed my life. I can literally count on half the funds from my startup raised traced back to that first introduction. My world becoming a global CEO and a philanthropic leader from that one introduction. Some of my closest friends in life, pre and post kids, because of that. And it all happened because somebody believed in me and did something they didn't have to do and set a ripple effect in motion that is literally responsible for where I am today.
David, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and showing those ripple effects. It is so powerful.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your insight, all of the people that you've interviewed and everything that you do, Stephanie. So thank you so much for having me on.